a shadow on my source of light. You're bringing me down to the bottom of the hole. You're bringing me down, down, down to the...
Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome to another episode of Unknown Sundays here. To understand the placement of the band that I'm going to talk about on this Unknown Sunday, I have to hearken back to a generational shift in music that some were smitten with, and others very, very, very definitely not in love with. But what they can agree on is that it shrouded the industry of music, creating record sales and dominance that left a lot of music genres in peril at that point. Not that they meant to, it just sounded like they meant to. The angst and delivery of the grunge era, which started in the mid-'80s with distorted guitars and like a merging of what might be considered punk. It meets metal and some reminders of sonic indie impressionisms, like maybe Sonic Youth, for an example, yielded bands like the Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, with some of the earliest grit that formed the movement coming from a band like Green River. We're sort of left in this actual dirt that the term grunge actually applies to. Grit, angst, and a tormented electric guitar, and the world was your oyster, if you could deliver with your lyrics and not seem like some poser because of the sub pop label that really know when you were coming and had that that you were duplicating and not being original. So they hated slick production. That was no question there. They pushed the envelope of vocal, and they certainly wanted the anger amped up beyond the chord of punk. Generation X pretty much had their ears, hands, and money stretch out for this musical genre, and it certainly became its own monster. And it often tied to the distortion and feedback of early Neil Young, who is considered the supposed godfather of the grunge era. This is not to understate the influences of the Melvins, the Pixies, and again, Green River. But what took it to the mainstream was obviously Smells Like Teen Spirit. However, when it comes down to those still utilizing the original sound of grunge, adding their staple and mark upon it since those times, you have to keep with Pearl Jam, of course, Soundgarden basically, but they're probably done now with the death of Cornell, and Stone Temple Pilots, which is now on a third incantation with a female lead singer. And we'll see how that goes. But let's face it, why would anyone want to hearken back to that era in the ears of an audience with the same old defibrillator in that style of polarizing era? Maybe that's just why fantastic polarization, because truly it was, and still it held that generation and genres, especially those in stoner rock, doom metal, and sludge of today, still captivating. So I enter a Swedish band for your grunge indulgence. Brand new, October 11th. This is Smash Adams on Unknown Sundays, 2024. Bring the River Down kind of opens the floodgates to grunge immediately here. The vocal comes into a lane that you are absolutely, utterly familiar with.
We came out of the darkness of ashes. We became. Bring the river down.
So you've got this Swedish presentation of a Seattle version of a resurrection ceremony. The grunge party kicks off, and it's, you don't know where next, right? Because Bring the River Down is definitely right in that wheelhouse. And now we're wondering where the rest is going to fall in that familiarity. Well, is it all a trick to get play? Are they feeding a reverence? Or they make you know exactly where the band is placing their influential bets? They go deeper down in the Alice in Chains sludge rabbit hole for sure. And the next track, which is Black Cloud,
Millstone hanging around my neck.
it's an exact match. So now I'm feeling a little weirded out. While I'm feeling that singularity in the vocal and that similarity in the vocal, the overall band's timing is completely Alice in Chains. It's almost even there's some catching of modest inflection that happens that are not Jerry Cantrellish, but certainly still in that wheelhouse. And after a quick stop to the second song, which is not an Alice in Chains type of thing, they roll right into the harmonies that we all loved and missed, those dark harmonies. As I do not think the post-Staley incarnation of Alice in Chains has hindered that or gathered that in as well. So they have it all and a jar of flies. I mean, I wanted to use in spades, but hell, the jar of flies things works better, doesn't it? What we have here is a double-headed dragon. We've got this incredible vocalist like that, if you remember, of Mark Wahlberg in that particular movie where he was duplicating the lead singer's voice so he could be in that band. Then we've got this other side, which is this Greta Van Fleet-like playmanship that's directly pulsating like that of Alice in Chains. It's dead smack on. And while I'm still wondering where we're going from here, as we're already at Down, which is basically the large single.
They cast a shadow on my source of light. You're bringing me down to the bottom of the hole. You're bringing me down, down, down to the
It's slipping in and out of this facelift meets dirt, which I'm loving, and I feel guilty sort of, and you shouldn't, right? Are we just going to stay in the Alice in Chains the entire time? Do I care? Well, let's take a step back and think about the Stone Temple Pilots and Pearl Jam and those of that era, and Stone Temple Pilots sounding like Alice in Chains. So weren't we all in that together anyway? He's just Lane Staley reincarnate, this vocalist, for sure. And we'll get to that in a second. In fact, I think he might actually be better than the Alice in Chains vocalist that is right now. Did I just say that? What would Jerry Cantrell say? Does he even know they exist? I'm imagining he does. The band was a power trio under the name of The Torch, Torch, no E, which I remember actually listening to Chasing Light in 2018, which I actually enjoyed and did feel that lingering grunge and vocal, but it wasn't like directly like Lane Staley. Had more of a Soundgarden production to me, if I recall. The band now back to a quarter instead of the power trio because this Glenn Gilbert returned. Now, Glenn Gilbert must be the vocalist here that has the Lane Staley connection and vocal match. Don't get me wrong, the other gentleman who's on guitar, Martin Sodervist, he is doing the vocal harmonies too, so he has a grunge input. This whole band, Per Romval on bass and Peter Derenius on drums. They know what they're doing. They know the reason they're doing it. Their connectivity to Alice in Chains is all over this debut. This is also a very more polished production than their 2018 and 2014 records. We're talking about 10 years later. This band is now finally hitting something. Smash Adams is the sum of those early albums attached to that era, but now made fully and completely in the vein that they've chosen. And their style here, there's a connection for millions of listeners, of course, and this should be a good chance for this grunge rock band to stand taller in the marketplace. But who are they going to open for, right? Well, they're not going to open for Alice in Chains, that's for sure. That will be interesting in the months and a year to come, but I'm intrigued, honestly, just like I was when Greta Van Fleet made their move. And even if you want to go back a little bit further, let's go into Canada to the Tea Party. When they first came out, I know everyone was like, God, it sounds like the Doors. It's like Morrison reincarnate. although Jeff Martin is predominantly maybe a little bit darker and a hell of a guitar player. But let's face it, there was even Zeppelin in there, and they became much, much bigger, proggier, and alternative awesome. So here's to Smash Adams from Sweden and their debut, Smash Adams, and their first incarnation, the Torch, as I'm still carrying it like they are, forward into the light of the music multiverse. Albums of Smash Adams, obviously only the debut, self-titled, and then albums of the Torch, you can go to Chasing the Light in 2018 and Light That Fire in 2014. Did you know the Torch? Did you know Smash Adams? Were you familiar with this idea of them sounding exactly like Alice in Chains? And are you enjoying it? Are you going to go on this? Do you think it's a ripoff? Do you think it's a ploy? Maybe it's AI. I don't think so, considering the prior albums. Anyway, we're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course. We got articles, videos, and podcasts. It's all about albums, bands, artists, anything we can get our hands on. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. Until next week on Unknown Sundays, happy listening.